KuroGames is turning into Hoyoverse. Now, this discussion has been brought up quite recently because we've seen that KuroGames have been lacking when it comes to the combat event, when it comes to listening to feedback. And although there has been adjustments, there has still been some improvements. We've also seen what happens when a company drops the ball like crazy. I've seen, as a day one player, what KuroGames has become when they listen to their community consistently. When it came to 1.0 all the way to, I would say, 2.0, they fixed everything. They post feedback, they post updates. Now, 2.7 is arguably one of the worst patches in the game. And there has been another patch previously, such as the anniversary or the 2.5, where Kuro missed the mark for certain aspect. However, I don't think it was as bad as it is to now. Now, what makes this patch really important is because if Kuro doesn't fix it right now, doesn't show us that they actually care, then they are pretty much becoming another example of Hoyoverse, which I extremely dislike. Now, why am I saying this? Because the biggest complaint so far is that there is a lack of event. Now, 2.5, 2.6, as of now, 2.7, we still don't have a combat event. Additionally, there has not been a co-op event. Guys, when you think about great games, when you think about Genshin, for example, okay, despite the fact that Genshin might be considered worse nowadays, one of its greatest aspects is the fact that when it comes to co-op, when it comes to playing with other players, Genshin brings a variety of players. This game, by far, lacks that aspect. That is one of the reasons why this game, I still feel, cannot compare to Genshin. And of course, there's obviously going to be other parts where, yes, it's going to share some similarities, where I'm going to sound like a hypocrite. But when it comes to co-op, wuwa is lacking by a very large scale. Now, I think that this survey is one that needs to be shared. Not just for me to fill out, but for the community to just tell them, to let them know that, hey, it's time to quit. This is not what we should be doing. So let's just get started, shall we? Please let us know your age. I do remember that if you press under 18, you will not be able to do the survey. So we're clearly not going to do that. Because I think I tried to troll for one time, and it just backfired. So we're going to put 21 here. New content in version 2.7, including the main quest, bygone, new event. Okay, so what we're going to put here is actually very dissatisfied. Now, 2.7 has the main story, which is the conclusion to the Renacita arc, which was actually really good. Now, I say it's really good, but I'm not going to say it's the best because I think there is a lot of critique to be made. However, the way that Kuro wrapped it up was excellent. For a majority of the player base, I think they will be in agreement that it was really good. So, but the reason I'm putting very dissatisfied is because the lack of events, the lack of activity, the lack of stuff to do after we finish the story. Now, this is even worse in the case of players that don't even do the story, okay? Because they absolutely have nothing to do. So, this patch by itself is considered a failure in that part. Based on your experience, how satisfied are you with the following version? Okay, great. So it has exactly what I'm looking for. The story, very satisfied. World exploration, I'm going to have to say very dissatisfied. Actually, okay, I'll say somewhat dissatisfied because I think we did get a small region to the Septimon, although I don't think it was really relevant. However, they did add it, so I will be fair and say that yes, they did add a bit. So instead of putting very dissatisfied, it's gonna be just, you know, somewhat dissatisfied. Environmental visuals. Now, when it comes to environmental visuals, I think wuwa has arguably one of the best, if not the best, graphics around in gacha. However, Septimon has still been a shit show because I actually upgraded my PC. And what happens was, yes, I have been playing wuwa quite better now. However, it's still pretty bad because the optimization for Septimon, due to how demanding it is for the visual, the blowing leaves, the waves, everything, the task has become quite detrimental to people that are not able to afford such luxury. So I'm going to have to put very dissatisfied because, for example, I have a new i5 14 Gen CPU and I also have a 4060, right? So these are some very good combos. This has great graphics. It has a great 14 core that should be able to handle basically anything nowadays, right? That isn't like a hard AAA game. And the fact is, there are times when I do lag, which only happens in Septimont, because if I go back to the early 1.0 area, it is refreshing. I'm getting high FPS, but it drops like crazy just going back to Septimont. So the environmental visuals, I'm going to have to say somewhat dissatisfied. Music and sound effects, this is going to be very satisfied because when it comes to music in this game, they know how to make bangers. Now that banger for the story, the new song that they dropped, I completely forgot what the name was. It's great. So yeah, the fight with the Thornodian at the end, that was peak. So I'm gonna have to say I'm very satisfied. Let's see. Performance optimization. Oh, okay. I didn't know this was actually for a second, I didn't think this was the same as the graphics. So this is gonna be a little questionable. Performance optimization, I'm gonna say somewhat dissatisfied. Resonator visuals. Uh overall satisfied. Resonator building. Um I'm gonna say neutral. Now the reason I'm gonna say neutral is because I think that Shu Yuan and Galbraina's kit are very easy to pick up. And I know how complex Wu can be. And especially after I played PGR, I know for a fact that Kuro can cook up something crazy. Now, if you haven't played PGR, you don't understand how good KuroGames is when it comes to combat. You don't understand how good they are when it comes to making movesets, fights, and everything. So now that I have this experience, I'm going to be a little biased and say that it's neutral because compared to those games, it does look like hot dog water right now. And one of the other reasons is that there is a lack of building when it comes to these new characters because Shu Yuan, you can really only use it with Frolova. You can, and especially it's chilled for Galbraina. And for players that are not able to afford those characters, he is basically useless. At the same time, Shu Yuan should have also been a personal DPS. I think that if he was like Yuno, I think everyone would have been pretty happy, right? But the fact is, he's just like a pure, I wouldn't even call it a sub DPS. He's like just a support. So yeah, I feel like with all the visuals that he's had, he doesn't fit that role as a support, and team building just really sucks. You know what? I actually might move this down. I think somewhat dissatisfied is fair critique. When it comes to combat, yeah, we're very dissatisfied. Yeah, we're very dissatisfied. Events and challenges, very dissatisfied. I don't even think we need to think about this one. UI design, it's neutral because not unable to rate actually because I don't think anything changed. Yeah, I don't think anything changed. Co-op experience. What co-op event? Okay. What do you think about the amount of playable content in version 2.7 Breaking Dawn? Not these. The playtime was pretty long, 6 hours. This is going to be one of wuwa's biggest patch. So, yeah. I cannot say that is short. I think sufficient content. That's appropriate. How satisfied are you with version 2.7 Tower Diversity? The thing is, I have two sides of this. Now, I want to say that I am satisfied because I am someone that sweats a bit. So when it comes to TOA, it has been arguably very easy. So the fact that they made it challenging is something that I am willing to take. However, at the same time, there are players that do not like this because they will struggle. So what I propose is that you could do something like Deadly Assault in ZZZ where you only need to get like 6 out of 9, right? And then the last 2 are like extra reward. So you can just give more rewards to all the other floors. But what I do say that I liked is that they have made it where I think 1 and 2 you can auto clear, so you just never have to do that, which is great because I just don't want to go back to do 1 to 4 on both sides. It's just really boring. So I think I'm going to say overall satisfied. But if they have like a following survey, I will write it out. Okay, they didn't, so great. How satisfied are you with the 2.7 Wuthering Waves? I think I'm overall satisfied. Wuthering Waves has been interesting to say. I think the tokens, they might have fixed it. When it comes to burning waves, it actually works now. It doesn't take you almost 2 minutes in to finally get it working. So if you have like off teams such as like Augusta, who's actually like one of the best character in the team in the game mode, yeah, she is pretty good. And you can just use the burning waves and it makes her tremendously easy. So overall satisfied. How satisfied are you with the Linus of Glory? You know what? This hologram is actually really fun because I've seen videos and I've also tested it myself. How the mechanic where it can self-inflict damage if you parry the attack is really cool. I like these kinds of attacks because there's a wider range in the game. It's not just you only do damage to them. They can do damage to themselves. So I'm going to say I'm very satisfied with this. How satisfied are you with the Thornodian? Is about the standard boss combat, not the boss combat in the story. So I'm going to say, you know what? I'm going to just be realistic here. It's a good thing that they only said combat, not the combat in the story, because if it was the combat in the story, I might have had to give some harsh critiques because I thought the cutscenes were amazing, but the combat felt just really weak. It didn't felt that challenging. And I think you need something challenging when you're getting to like the peak climax. Like the build-up needs to be there, right? And then they're giving us like this weakling guy that just manages to kill them with a few shots, right? I need to see that hype from 2.2. I need to see that build up where Rover gets into that form and then you can use 3. He uses 3 of his abilities. That was not something you can do when you were fighting the Thornodian. I believe you had more characters, but the fact is the Thornodian was kind of easy to fight, so Yeah. Anyways, I've been on a tangent. The normal though, I'm just gonna say neutral because I feel like we're talking about someone that is close to a god, or you could even say is a god, right? They're on that level, and the fact is, they're really easy to fight. So it's just like it doesn't feel that challenging. It doesn't feel rewarding. The question about standard boss: why is the Thornodian not satisfied? Okay, great. Um, the combat was the music was great. The boss fight was easy. The boss didn't have interesting mechanics and skill. I guess you could say that because basically it's reusing all of the resonators. So, yeah. I don't think this is an issue. Not enough back and forth between me and the boss during the combat. Sure, let's go with that. Lack of information. Nope, totally not it. Poor camera. Awkward. Not really. The boss fight was too difficult. Nope. Nope. Yep, I think these are like gonna be the main three, right? What's next? How satisfied are you with the echo skill? Wait, what the heck is an echo skill? Wait. Oh, gotcha. Dealing havoc damage. I'm gonna say neutral. I feel like it's just like another regular echo. There's like nothing special about it. I will say neutral because it does not feel particularly different than any other echo. The design aspect is there, but it still feels normal. This does not mean that this is bad. All right, great. What's next? How satisfied are you with the Echo Set Flaming Shadow? Ooh. I'm gonna say. Wait, which one is Flaming Shadow? Oh, yeah, that's the new one, right? Okay, great. Somewhat dissatisfied. Why is the Echo. The issue is the lack of tacit field. Now, guys, when it comes to the tacit field, we actually have not gotten one in about 6 months. It has been, I don't know if 6 months is the right word, but it has been quite a long time. We've had a numerous amount of patches. I believe the last time we've had it was in 2.4. Okay, that is 4 or 3 patches ago. We did not have a tacit field. And it's kind of annoying when you have all of these new ones, but you have to go farm. Like you guys saw this. You guys saw this. Or no, you didn't see it. But I am farming 1.0 regions while having to go to Renacita to go farm the new one for Galbrena. That's not fun. Okay. The issue is the lack of tacit field. Okay. Next page. How satisfied are you with the special enemy Doom Abject? Okay, I'm gonna be honest. I don't know what this. What the heck is this mob do? Why do I think he's like one of the dude with the cannon on his back that you see in like maybe the TOA or in the 1.0 region. Uh, Unable to. I'm just gonna put overall satisfied. Actually, I don't even know what he does, but it's probably nothing crazy, right? Because it's like not. He looks like a one cost if it applies. Do you like the feature where a main quest is included in the second half of a new version? Um, I'm gonna put hard to say. Now, there are ways where it can be good and it can be bad at the same time. Now, if we take a look at 2.4, for example, that Lupa quest had 2 parts. And this is important because when we finished the first arc, we were desperate for the second one, which made the worthwhile a little good. However, during that time frame, there should be something to make up for it. And now if we think back on 2.6, okay, I also think 2.6 was a little disappointing. However, the story was really good. And I know a lot of people, in fact, as myself, have been excited for the U-Note following to that, which did, in fact, was really good. Now, when it comes to 2.7, after we finish the story, it felt like we finished the story. So now the fact is we have to bring ourselves back because 1, there's lack of stuff to do, and 2, it's not finished yet because we have to do a Shu Yuan story. So I don't particularly know what the story is. I haven't done it yet, but yeah, there needs to be like a correct level of hype that's carrying throughout the patch. Now this is kind of hard to measure, which is what I'm gonna put here. So yeah, why didn't you like this feature? You may skip this question if you have no additional feedback. Okay. The issue here is that 2.7 wrapped up the story. However, the lack of activity to do following that did not allow players such as myself to want to look forward to the second half. This includes the Shu Yuan story. Shu Yuan story. Now, I've been a person that has actually done like all the stories. So I did want to make a video ranking the stories actually. And there's 3 that comes to the top of my mind. The first one is the Encore. The Encore story quest is one of the best story quests that I've ever seen. That ending, the whole way it was written up, was actually beautiful. And this was prior knowing that I think it was it before the Camellia or was it after? But yeah, I don't know. I'm not too sure actually. But the story quest during the 1.3, 1.4, despite them releasing in whichever order, they were really good. Now, if you haven't done them, I recommend doing so. However, the way that they build up with all the stuff you had to do back then, compared to now, this feels a little dissatisfied. In the overworld exploration, which of the following quests did you remember and find enjoyable? Okay, so this is just... Are these even all in 2.7? Now, I'm not entirely sure. Septimon. Okay, let's just start. Flying Magic Show. I don't even remember what this was. Duel of Destiny. I did remember this one. No. Looking for... Okay, I did remember this. I think this is kind of fun. Taking a flying leap from various places during Leap of Glory. Leap of Glory is actually peak because these had some great reference. And then there was a cool cinematic as well. So I respect that. Solving puzzles at the Crop Altair. I think this was actually really cool because this requires like world exploration. Defeating Lioness of Glory. at the Three Heroes crest. Yeah, I think this was pretty good. I this this feels familiar, but I don't remember what it was. Climbing a giant sword of the statue and collecting light dots. Yeah, I remember this. Removing Samosa's treasure that was washed down the side quests. Yeah, I don't really remember that. I think I remember this one because the Dragon Quest was actually kind of huge. Yeah, I don't remember all these other quests. I'm not gonna lie, and I think some of them I may have not done, or the ones that I may have, I might have just like skipped over it. The side stories, I'ma just be honest, aren't that interesting. You may skip this question. Which type of content would you like to see in the overworld? What would I like to see in the overworld? Okay, let's start off with increase difficulty. Increase difficulty on world exploration. Introduce more co-op ability, which encourages players to diversify and come together. What else can I guess if you make the side quest, make put voice over on side quests. Do not disregard it just because it is not relevant to the story. To the main story. I think that's the correct way to say this. Based on your experience, do you have any additional feedback or suggestion? I mean, I think I have to give it like a proper welcome to wuwa. Okay, this is what I think KuroGames need to read. This patch is very important, especially this survey, because it will show us whether or not you are listening to the community. The precedent that you are currently displaying when it comes to the lack of activities such as exploration, events, co-ops, and endgame content shows that KuroGames that we once loved, who listens to their community and gives proper feedback, is nowhere in sight. Please do not repeat the mistakes that other companies have shown. Do not forget the reason this game succeeded in the first place. And yes, guys, remember back all the memes, every single post. KuroGames listen. The feedback. You guys remember the first day where the lights for KuroGames were on the whole time? At night, there was probably no sleeping. There was probably nothing. Because they wanted to make sure the game would succeed. And guess how far we are now? We are a year and a half in, and the game is doing tremendously well. However, doing tremendously well does not mean that it cannot be better. If you only strive for being good, you are only setting your standards low. You always need to set yourself to be better. I think this game can go pretty far. So, I hope that with this in mind, KuroGames, if you're even watching this video, I hope that you listen to your community, listen to the surveys, because I know for a fact that multiple content creators, community members, diehard fans will be harsh on this one. So I will take my 50,002 morph echoes. Now, what I want to say is, you guys remember back in I think the 2.0 or the early surveys, they actually give you astrites. Now, I'm wondering, where did that go? because surely wuwa is gonna put that out again, right? I feel like they need to increase this and make sure they are getting enough feedback that they should be, because what it's telling me is that they are dropping the ball. Yeah, this is not enough. In fact, I'd argue that we should probably get like 200 shell credits. I know how annoying it is when it comes to upgrading, cuz Jesus Christ, dude. Look at that. I only have 300k. But yeah, I'm just going on a ramble right now. Thank you guys for watching this video. If you liked it, consider staying tuned for other future videos. And yeah, that's going to be about it.